Hello guys, what is going on? Son of Chelsea back here again for my team selector and preview ahead of tomorrow night's massive Champions League semi-final first leg away to Real Madrid. Just saying away to Real Madrid, just saying Real Madrid versus Chelsea, just seeing that graphic. You know, it's everything we opposed last week about the European Super League because these are not weekly ties. I think there is something so special about coming up against a team like Real Madrid who we haven't faced since 1998. They're unique, glamour ties that I think you want to be in the Champions League for, and why Chelsea have earned the right to get to this stage. And it's a testament to Thomas Tuchel that we've got to the semi-final without tons of drama, not without stress, because there are nerves watching Chelsea in any game, especially big Champions League ties, and they were close games against Atletico Madrid and Porto. But the ease to which we got here in comparison to other years in the Champions League when we've reached the Final Four, I think is just once again proof of what Tuchel has done with this team. And I don't think there are going to be too many surprises in his approach to this game, just because of the amount we've seen Thomas Tuchel, but also the way he approaches big games. And I think, as I've said previously, I think Tuchel understands, in particular in the Champions League, in particular with the squad he's been given at Chelsea, it's all about those fine margins. You don't have to be the most incredible team. You don't have to be, play total football to win the Champions League. It is knockout football, and it's about getting it right in both boxes, which predominantly, with the exception of one game really, Thomas Tuchel has got spot on, especially in the Champions League. And I think it's going to be a tense game. I think it's just a success Chelsea getting to the last four and being able to say we are in the last four. But with the top four race, up for grabs at the moment, Chelsea may have to do what they did in 2012 and win the whole thing to qualify for the Champions League. And none of us would be complaining if that happened. So team news, Mateo Kovacic is out. That's the big absentee we expected. Pretty much set, isn't it? Before I give you my lineup later of what the double six is going to be tomorrow. Tuchel spoke about that. Still a little bit like, well, Billy Gilmour's in your squad, mate, and, he hasn't given him any chances, and I'm not expecting him, of course, against Real Madrid to give him a chance, but if Kovacic isn't available for the weekend, I would say let's bring Gilmour into that midfield too, alongside, say, Jorginho, give Kante a rest for the second leg, because it's so intense at the moment, and just that double six, unless he pushes Mason back, which... all right, but I think Mason's much better further up the pitch, so I think we all know what the double six is going to be tomorrow against Real Madrid, but... all the ESL nonsense last week, of course, I'm pretty sure narratively there's going to be a lot of noise around that. Florentino Perez, always ridiculous comments. I mean, Thomas Tuchel had to face questions today asking him about, Ceferin and all his comments about Chelsea and Real Madrid and the clubs who were involved in the European Super League. And almost, the suggestion, I think to both managers, Zidane got a similar question, or Varane got a question, suggesting that somehow because Ceferin is looking to be tough on Real Madrid because of their heavy involvement in the Champions League with Perez, that somehow that could influence the referee tomorrow. So that's sort of one way of looking at this game. And it's quite funny from a Chelsea perspective, thinking about Chelsea getting favourable decisions from referees in big Champions League semi-finals if we think back to 2009. But for me, I think just selfishly, I think, Chelsea, we get to the final. I think Chelsea will complete the holy trinity in the Champions League of beating Barca, Bayern Munich and Real Madrid in Champions League knockout ties. I just think that's quite a special thing to have. I don't know if there are many English clubs who have that. I suggest that maybe Liverpool have done it and probably Man United have done it, but it's a pretty unique thing to have, beating all three of those clubs. Eden Hazard, he's back fit, of course he is. Narratively, that just makes a lot of sense that he be back fit for this game. Fingers crossed he doesn't cause Chelsea nightmares and turn into the Eden we all remember at Chelsea and loved. The move just unfortunately hasn't worked out for Eden Hazard, but given Real Madrid, their terrible, mostly terrible season, in terms of domestically, it hasn't gone to plan. They probably should have been knocked out in the group stage, somehow finishing top of that really intense group with Gladbach, with Shakhtar and Inter Milan. Somehow they've made it to the semi-final, very Real Madrid, and it's very Chelsea in a chaotic season to make something good out of it as well. So it's going to be interesting to see Real Madrid with some of the big players they have, in particular Eden Hazard. Out of all the struggles he's had, it's one of those things where you just think football, he turns up and turns into the player we all know and sort of haunts Chelsea tomorrow. Let's hope that isn't the case over this two-legged tie. But let's look at Real Madrid a little bit more in depth. Of course, second in La Liga. It hasn't really been the season domestically Real Madrid wanted, but if they do win another Champions League, which they know all about, it will make up, I think, for that domestic sort of plight this year. And Zidane's done a lot of good work to get them to this stage. And given it isn't the best Real Madrid side, as we'll get into, some still incredible players that should frighten you going into this game, still an incredible team with with great players, but in terms of the level with like Cristiano Ronaldo, Gareth Bale over the years, it isn't quite the same team, and that could give Chelsea hope they could progress through this tie and get to that final, but still massive players. Karim Benzema, I'm sort of looking at a bit like Chelsea in 2012, sort of the old guard of this Real Madrid side. It's sort of a side, popular word, but in transition. There are young players like Vinicius who I think could be a really good talent for them. But there are still some of those older players in key positions that I think will be the ones to look out for, and I think will be dragging Real Madrid through this tie if they do beat Chelsea over 2 legs. Last time, 4-3-3, Rafael Varane, who of course been linked to Chelsea, Sergio Ramos we expect back for this game. A big miss for them is Ferland Mendy, who's out with an injury. He was key for them, scoring a big goal in the first leg of the last 16 tie away to Atalanta, and made some key blocks in the first leg against Liverpool. He is a big miss for them, and can Chelsea try and exploit the left side of Real Madrid's defence? I think that could be a key thing for Chelsea to try and go into this game. But the 4-3-3, even though Isco played out, I fully expect that midfield three of Kroos, Modric and Casemiro, which were absolutely outstanding in the first leg, and in particular the first half against Liverpool. That is a scary midfield. That is a midfield to die for. The balance, the quality, the experience level as well. The movement of all three of those players, Kroos, Modric and Casemiro, any one of those I think you'd want in your midfield. And it's going to be a massive test for Chelsea tomorrow, not only in winning that midfield battle against a quality of player like that we don't come up against every week. And I think, much better than our midfield, I have to say. I think overall those 3 players are just extraordinary. They really are. So it's going to be a massive test for both Jorginho and Kante. And as well, I think the wing backs to tuck in, and of course the likes of Mason Mount to come back and help in that sense to really control the game and stop them flowing and being creative, because all 3 of those players are so deadly. And I was really intrigued in the first leg against Liverpool, Casemiro making movements almost as a number 10, so the movements are going to be hard for Chelsea to deal with, and it's about Tuchel setting up properly, and the structure that served us so well can be resolute in what is going to be a massive game. Sergio Ramos too, and Karim Benzema, I think those are the 2 players, and you could just see Ramos, Jay McIntosh on our pod said, you could just see Ramos scoring a big goal here, and his character and really stepping up at the right moment for Real Madrid. He's one of those players, isn't he, that just seems to, at the right moment, despite all critics of him, he's made for these big occasions. And I think Benzema, you got to give him respect for the longevity he's had. And Vinicius too, I think is a really interesting player. I think he's really exciting. Of course, still young, still developing, so he's going to have, highs and lows, but I think is another player that I'm scared of, because I think the wing play, I think both Ben Chilwell and Reece James have given it away, but obviously those 2 are going to play, or whoever plays as wing backs is going to have a lot of work to do going out wide from that midfield and stopping balls into the box for Karim Benzema to get on the end of. That's going to be a big issue for Chelsea tomorrow, and can we stop their attack from wide? I think that's a big thing for Chelsea. And I think tactically, where I'm looking at when I looked at the Liverpool game, I felt Liverpool in particular in that second leg could have done a lot more. I think there is space, despite Madrid's midfield being so good, I think there is space behind Madrid's midfield that I think that Liverpool exploited, and I think Chelsea should get encouragement from that. And I think that's where Chelsea playing on the counter tomorrow night will be the big thing, and who I think that Thomas Tuchel goes for. So let's go into my predicted lineup. I'm going to give you 2 once again, but really it's a change of the attacking 3, because I think that is, for most people, the big question going into this game, like it is most games. I think the rest of the team, sort of picks itself. I think there's only one other position you could argue over, and that's the middle of the back 3, but I do think Thiago Silva will be playing this game. It's harsh on Andreas Christensen, who's had the best run of his Chelsea career, but we bought Thiago Silva for a reason, and I think it's for this type of game, the experience level coming up against someone like Benzema. I just think, why wouldn't you play Thiago Silva here? And we could see the back 3 that started against West Ham at the weekend, but I think Dave will still be in this team, and I'd rather have Reece James at right wing back. So I think both Dave and Rudiger will be either side here. Ben Chilwell, who's been exceptional recently. I also think the relationship between Ben and Rudiger has been really good in recent months. That the aggressive nature of both of their defending to really stop wide attackers, I think it has to be at top level tomorrow night in the Champions League semi-final, depending who they come up against in that front 3. Reece James was rested, came on late against West Ham, but I expect him to start this game. Kante, Jorginho as that midfield 2. I don't expect them to move that much. I expect Jorginho to stay sort of behind the halfway line. I think Chelsea will have to do a lot of defending, or at least try to play on the counter. I think that this will be the game for Thomas Tuchel, where we'll see what he did against Liverpool, primarily what he did against Man City in the FA Cup semi-final. And that's where we get to my front three, and why for the first one I've gone for Ziyech, Mason Mount and Timo Werner. I think this three has worked well together based on the evidence of 2 games, Liverpool away and also Man City in the FA Cup semi-final. I think Ziyech and Mount, their ability to drop deeper, find those pockets of space. If Real Madrid are pressing up high, they have a more high line that Chelsea can exploit, and those balls through to Timo Werner. Timo Werner is one of the best transition players you can get, and unfortunately Chelsea haven't been able to utilise him that much because we want a lot of the ball. But in a game where Chelsea, I don't expect to have tons of the ball, or at least don't want to control the game as much, this is where you bring Timo Werner in. This is where he can find those passes, or at least have passes put in front of him, and he should be in good confidence after a massive goal against West Ham at the weekend. So I think that Timo Werner, this could be the game for him, a counter-attacking performance that I think Tuchel will go for, try and be resolute. That structure defensively that served Tuchel and Chelsea so well, I think will remain resolute away from home, trying to get that away goal on the break. And I think Ziyech, Werner and Mount have proved, all 3 of them, that they can work as a good front 3 together. Then you go to the second front 3, which I think is the next most realistic and probably best option, which is Pulisic, Mount and Kai. Is a better all-round front 3. I think can be better in holding possession if Chelsea are able to get into the game a little bit more and sort of dominate it a bit more. I think this is the front 3 you'd want. I think Christian Pulisic, who was saying how excited he is for this game from build-up play, I think Pulisic is a lot better. I just think Pulisic and Werner, I think they get in the way of each other, and I think you have to have one or the other, unfortunately. I just think the positions that Timo takes on the left, I think sometimes gets in the way of Christian Pulisic, and I think that Pulisic's build-up is so good. I sort of want Pulisic to have that freedom if he is on a pitch and can't be sort of constricted, and I think that Timo, as I say, take up areas, and I think either one of them, in particular on Saturday, I think it took away from Pulisic's game on Saturday because Werner was operating in similar spaces. Kai Havertz did not play at all on Saturday, so you could see him come in here. And as I say, just all-round better 3. I mean, the constant here is Mason Mount, Chelsea's best player, and Mason's ability to build up, to press from the front defensively too. You need someone in that front 3 who's going to have the workload to press and get back and help out that midfield 2 of Kante and Jorginho against the midfield 3 of Real Madrid, and Mason Mount is that player. But as we saw against Porto, as we've seen consistently, creatively, goal scoring wise, Mason Mount you want in this team as well, because he just is that good. And Edouard Mendy, of course, I'm just going front to back here. Edouard Mendy has the most amount of clean sheets in the Champions League this season, only conceding 7 goals. That's 7 clean sheets. So of course, Edouard Mendy, just like he did at the weekend, will be starting this game. Those are my lineups, or at least, of course, 2 different front 3s. I want your guys' opinions in the comments below. Massive game. It's still hard to sink in. Maybe once we get to the game tomorrow, I'll be ready, because it's a Champions League semi-final. But as I said earlier, the ease to which we've got here, it's massive. It really is. And it's an incredible chance for Chelsea to get to a European Cup final again and potentially do something absolutely remarkable. But it's going to be a massive test. But thank you guys for watching. Follow me on Twitter @SonOfChelsea, and I'll see you again.